Today I read a book called The Treasure of Easter Island in the Geronimo Stilton series. Let's go right into it. An adventure to remember. I'm ready to tell you about an incredible adventure I'll never forget. This story is very special to me because it takes place in one of the most mysterious places on Earth. The whole thing started on a beautiful spring morning. Oops, what terrible manners! I haven't introduced myself yet. My name is Stilton, Geronimo Stilton, and I'm the publisher of the Rodents Gazette, the most famous newspaper on Mouse Island. Anyway, that spring morning, I was hard at work in my office. For the record, I'm always hard at work when I'm in the office, even if my grandfather, William Shorepaws, said otherwise. I was with Susie Shuttermouse, our new staff photographer. We were deciding which photo to put on the front page of our next issue. Susie is also best friends with my sister, Dia. Dia is the newspaper special correspondent. Susie Shuttermouse. Susie Shuttermouse is the Rodents Gazette's official photographer and Dia's best friend. They travel the road together looking for exclusive stories. Susie wants to be ready for anything and everything, so she never travels anywhere without her equipment bag. Susie's equipment bag. Susie's bag is enormous. It has lots of hidden zippered compartments. Each pocket holds a different item such as a camera, powders, scissors, energy bars, a toothbrush, etc. The bag also has many special features. It can become a backpack, a parachute, or an umbrella, and it's made of very lightweight but durable waterproof material. Susie pointed to a photo of the Amazon rainforest. The image showed a crew of rats chopping down trees and vegetation. Listen to me, Geronimo, Susie squeaked. You should put a story about the Amazon on the front page. We have to do something to keep these rats from destroying the rainforest. I risked my fur to take these photos. Now the least you can do is publish them. Nice work, Susie, I said proudly. I can already see the headline, Amazon rainforest in danger from... Before I could finish, my office door flew open and my cousin Trap burst in. He also works for the newspaper, though you'd never know it. He only shows up in the office when it's convenient for him. Anyway, he was pinching his nose with one paw and he held an umbrella in his other paw. A letter dangled by a string from the tip of the umbrella, and as if that wasn't weird enough, a cloud of flies buzzed around the letter. You've got mail, Geronimo, Trap squeaked, and boy, does it stink! He snapped the string with a pair of scissors and the letter landed on my desk with a flutter. Yuck, 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 Trap screeched. Rat-munching rattlesnakes. What's this stink from? A garbage dump? A sewage treatment plant? An underground cave full of frantic roaches that haven't bathed in years? He turned to leave, calling over his shoulder. You better close the door before you open that thing, cuz everyone in the newsroom is complaining about the awful stench. I sighed. Was it my fault someone had sent me the stinkiest piece of mail in all of New Mouse City? A second later, Susie closed the door with a bang. Then she dashed to the window and threw it open. A gust of wind blew into the office, making it much easier to breathe. Next, she took a pair of tweezers out of her giant equipment bag. She carefully picked up the envelope. Finally, she pulled a magnifying glass and used it to examine the full piece of mail. That's odd, Susie remarked. This comes from Easter Island. Who would write to you from there, Geronimo? I shook my head in surprise. Misty Monster, I have no idea, I exclaimed. Easter Island is one of the most mysterious places in the world, and it's in the middle of nowhere. My paws trembled with excitement as I opened that strange, stinky envelope. Another surprise awaited me inside. The letter was from my sister, Dia. Geronimo Stilton, the Rodents Gazette, 17 Swiss Cheese, Center, New Mouse City, Mouse Island, 13131. Dear Geronimo, I found a map that leads to treasure on Easter Island, and I've decided to search for it. I'm on the island right now, but I'm afraid finding the treasure could be very difficult, so that's why I'm sending you a copy of the map. If you receive this letter before I'm able to call you, it's because I may be in danger and I need your help. Find me by following the directions on the map. See you soon. Love, Dia. P.S. Don't dilly-dally. Love immediately. P.P.S. Invite someone adventurous to come with you. Someone like Wild Willie. P.P.P.S. Take Susie with you as well. She can take photos to go along with my story, and the rodents gathered will have the scoop of the year. Furthermore, remember to update your will before leaving. This island is very mysterious, and who knows what might happen on a search for treasure. Maybe leaving your fur behind. One last thing, I hope you didn't find this letter too stinky. I wanted to keep any sneaky rodents from opening it and reading the map, so I did this letter in guano, that's bird poop, in case you were wondering. It stinks so much no more would ever want to open it. Aren't you impressed with my ingenuity? Map to the treasure of Easter Island. Find the biggest two and its 15 protectors. Turn west and search for the great water that is and isn't. At the end of the day, follow the sun and you'll find the 7 young explorers. Take 7 gigantic steps to the right, 3 warrior steps to the left, and 1 baby step forward. The sigh of the wind will take you far away to the big black bubble. There, the sea hides an ancient secret, the treasure of Easter Island. Treasure, treasure, treasure! What? I stammered. A map? A treasure? Easter Island? My whiskers trembled with fear. I didn't want to go on a treasure hunt. In case you didn't know it, I'm a real scaredy mouse. As soon as I uttered the word treasure, the door flew open and smacked me in the snout. Ouchie! I squeaked. It was my cousin Trap. He had clearly been standing just on the other side of the door, eavesdropping. He didn't even apologize. A treasure? He squeaked, rubbing his paws together greedily. I'm coming with you. Oh, what a beautiful word. Treasure, treasure, treasure. Trap, don't you understand? I scolded him. The treasure isn't important. Dia is. I refused her letter, but she hasn't called. That means she's in danger. Susie tried to call Dia on the phone, but she didn't answer at home or on her cell phone. Ramunching rattlesnakes, I squeaked. Dia must be in real danger. She always answered her cell phone. I was so worried about my sister that I fainted from fear. As I said, I'm a real scaredy mouse. But Susie managed to revive me. First, she smacked my cheek. Then she pinched my ear. Then she poured ice-cold water from a vase of flowers over my snout. Finally, she stuffed a piece of cheese into my mouth. While I was trying to get myself together, Susie called Wild Willie. Do you know him? He is an archaeologist and a true adventure mouse. Wild Willie, is that you? Susie squeaked. It's Susie, the official photographer for the rodents gathered. He has disappeared. There's a treasure map, Easter Island. Right. We'll leave right away. Yeah. Won't dilly-dally. Right. Shung up. Wild Willie is on his way, she squeaked with satisfaction. We're leaving immediately. What do you mean? I stammered. We're leaving right now? But I have to pack a bag and turn on my out-of-office message and say goodbye to my sweet nephew Benjamin. Suddenly, a gust of wind hit me right in the snout. Then I heard an incredible noise from outside my window. Before I knew what was happening, a giant hook seemed to come out of the sky. A second later, it was dangling by my jacket collar as the hook scooped me up and carried me away. Help! I squeaked. I turned toward Trap and Susie, hoping they'd pull me inside. But instead, Trap grabbed my tail and Susie grabbed his. Go with the adventure, Susie shouted with a giggle as the hook lifted the 3 of us into the air. Moldy Mozzarella, where are we going? I'm alive! I'm still alive! A midnight blue airplane with a fierce dragon painted on it flew overhead as we soared over the roofs of New Mount City. My whiskers quivered with fright. Have I mentioned that I get airsick? And that's when I'm actually inside an airplane, not dangling below one. Help! I shrieked. With a metallic screech, the cable above me began moving upward. Finally, I landed inside the plane. Jump! This is fabulous! Trap shouted. Awesome! Susie squeaked in agreement. But there were no shouts of excitement from me. I kissed the fur of the plane as I cried with relief. I'm alive! I'm still alive! Well, for now, a deep voice muttered. It was Wild Willie. He was the one flying the plane. He handed me a map. Instead of wasting your breath, help me figure out the route of the Easter Island, he squeaked. And then read this travel guidebook. I was about to protest, but he stared at me with his piercing eyes. Don't you want to find Thea? Wild Willie asked. Come on, help me with the map, and don't make any mistakes, or we'll have to make an emergency landing in the middle of a stormy ocean on top of a craggy mountain peak. Emergency landing? I quickly agreed to help, but when I opened the map, what I saw gave me chills from the top of my head to the tip of my tail. Easter Island was far away and in the middle of nowhere, and when I read my travel guide, I realized there were many mysteries surrounding the island. This remote island is part of Chile. It lies more than 2,000 miles west of South America and more than 1,000 miles from its nearest island neighbor. The island was once home to the Rapa Nui people, who are famous for building incredible volcanic rock statues that depict huge human heads. Easter Island has a mysterious charm that attracts many tourists. Is that it? No way! We flew for hours and hours. Wild Willie kept his gaze fixed on the flight instruments. He never moved away from the controls. I, on the other paw, couldn't take my eyes off the foam-topped blue waves churning and crashing below us. The ocean seemed endless. According to my guidebook, the Polynesian people who had once explored the area navigated the ocean in simple outrigger canoes. How terrifying. Susie took photos after photo. Does this plane to stunts? She asked. While Willie asked, she snapped a shot of him at the controls. He raised his left eyebrow. Obviously, he replied coolly. Poof, I doubt it. Trap muttered. To prove himself, Wild Willie immediately leaned on the controls, spinning the plane into a wild corkscrew. Help! I screeched. Is that it? Trap scoffed. No way! Can't do anything better. With a sudden lurch, the plane dove into a death-defying spiral. Ah! I squeaked, terrified. I don't want to lose my fur. Oh, that's nothing, Trap teased Willie. If I were behind the controls. Before Trap could finish his sentence, Wild Willie took the tiny plane through one breathtaking stunt after another. During all these daredevil moves, I gripped the seat of the plane for dear life. My whiskers twisted with terror, and I was so airsick I thought I might toss my cheese. Luckily, Susie's kindness saved me. She rummaged through her equipment bag and found a bottle of bubbly seltzer water. Here, she said, this will help settle your stomach, Geronimo. Damn good mouth for her. Is that enough stunts, or do you want one more? Wild Willie shouted to Trap over the whir of the plane's engine. Please tell him that's enough, I begged Trap. I can't take another second of these woody loops. Trap scratched his snout and thought about it for what seemed like an eternity. Well, I have to admit, those are some pretty impressive stunts, he conceded. Only then did Wild Willie finally return the plane to a horizontal position. He grinned proudly. A moment later, an island shaped like a triangle appeared on the horizon. We've arrived on Easter Island, Susie squeaked excitedly. Yes, here we are, in the middle of nowhere, Wild Willie remarked darkly. Did you remember to update your will, Geronimo? I shook my snout. When would I have the time? Don't worry, Geronimo, Susie chirped. I'll help you do it now. To whom would you like to leave the Rona's Gazette? Trap tugged on my tail. Geronimo, my friend and favorite cousin, he said sweetly. A little too sweetly. If you ask me, you're going to leave the paper to me, right? I know all about running a newspaper, and like you, I think you should also leave me your antique cheese rind collection. And don't worry about your tombstone. I'll write something nice. How about, here lies Geronimo, a real scaredy mouth. He met his end on Easter Island when he suffered an attack of uncontrollable fear. That was something nice? That's enough, I squeaked. Why does everyone keep asking if I've updated my will anyway? The three of them exchanged an understanding look. What were they keeping from me? He's a really jittery mouse, isn't he? Well, Willie said. You're the ones who are making me jittery, I said impatiently. I put on my seatbelt and closed my eyes. What kind of danger awaited me? My heart beat faster just thinking about it. But my desire to help Tia was stronger than any fear I felt. I opened my wallet and took out a photo of my sister. I'll save you, little sister, I whispered. Welcome to Rapa Nui. Before I knew it, the plane was landing at Mataveri International Airport. A friendly-looking rodent with golden fur and long black hair met us at the gate. Welcome to Rapa Nui, she greeted us. My name is Vaitia, and I will be your guide. She presented each of us with a garland of multicolored flowers. You're not like other tourists, Trapp boasted. I could tell he was trying to make a good impression on Vaitia. We were here hunting for Susie clapped her paw over Trapp's snout before he could finish. You're here on vacation, just like all these other tourists, Susie squeaked confidently. We would love to see the island's most interesting sights. Susie showed Vaitia a photo of Tia. This is our friend who was recently on the island, she said. Have you ever seen her? No, I'm sorry, Vaitia replied, shaking her head. She doesn't look familiar. We were all hungry from our long flight, so Vaitia took us to a great restaurant in the harbor. We ate huge grilled shrimp, fish soup, and mahi-mahi, a fish that is often served on the island. During dinner, Vaitia told us some of the history of Easter Island. Rapa Nui is the other name for Easter Island, she began. It's also the name of the people who live here, and I'm proud to be one of them. My people speak two languages, Rapuni and Spanish. Then she taught us a few words and phrases. We began taking notes. Rapuni was a very interesting language. At the end of dinner, I showed off my knowledge and said to Vaitia, Maru means thank you. Varavia means very good, Vaitia replied, smiling. Now, would you like to see a typical dance? She asked. Performance is about to begin. The lights dimmed. Many young rodents appeared on the stage and began to sing. The musician played ukuleles and drums, and a few people began to dance. Their movements mimicked the daily activities of the Rapa Nui people, including swimming, fishing, and rowing a boat. Then they danced a ritual dance showing warriors intimidating their enemies. Finally, it concluded with a dance in which a fisherman and a maiden declared their love for each other. It was truly fabulous. Susie snapped a lot of photos. You'll leave here with lots of very interesting material for the Rodents Gazette. Tia will be very happy with my work. Hearing Tia's name brought me back to reality. We were here on a mission. Where's my sister Tia? And was she in danger? We had to find out soon. Look for the biggest The next morning, we gathered to decide what to do next. Probably we reached the riddle on the map. Find the biggest Ahu and its 15 protectors. Turn west and search for the great water that is and isn't. At the end of the day, follow the sun and you'll find the 7 young explorers. Take 7 gigantic steps to the right, 3 warrior steps to the left, and 1 baby step forward. The sigh of the wind will take you far away to the big black bubble. There, the sea hides an ancient secret, the treasure of Easter Island. The first thing we need to do is to find an Ahu, he concluded. In fact, we need to find the biggest one on the island. I checked my Easter Island white book. The Ahu are stone platforms that are used as burial sites by the ancient inhabitants of Easter Island, I explained. At that moment, Vaitia came in. Perfect timing, Susie squeaked. We were just talking about where we'd like to go first. We'd like to see some of the island's Ahu. Can you tell us which one is the biggest? That would be Ahu Tongariki, Vaitia replied with a smile. It's one of the most spectacular places on the island. When we got to Ahu Tongariki, the most majestic sight awaited us. The enormous statues lined the shore, their backs to the ocean waves. Vatia explained that the statues, called Moi, were built to guard or protect the island. Get your camera ready, Susie. Here goes Tongariki. Tongariki is the biggest goes on Easter Island. The Moi there face inland with their backs to the sea. Trap shouted as he ran toward the Moi. I'm going to climb to the top. Stop! Vatia squeaked in dismay. You can't climb a Moi. Please, you shouldn't even touch it. This is my ancestors' sacred burial ground. Susie grabbed Trap. Susie grabbed Trap by the tail a second before he began to climb. What do you think you're doing? She scolded him. During this whole mess, I was busy counting the Moi on the stone platforms. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, etc. 13, 14, 15, I continued. These are the 15 protectors the riddle talks about. We figured out the first clue. Now we have to turn west and find the Great Water, whispered Wiley. But I don't understand why it is and isn't. What do you think that means? Searching for the Great Water. We headed west with Vatia, but we didn't see even a drop of water anywhere. Is there any water on Easter Island? Susie asked her. I haven't seen any so far. Well, there is and isn't much water on the island, Vatia replied mysteriously. There are 3 crater lakes, but during the dry season, there isn't much water in them. During the rainy season, though, it's another story. My tail twisted with excitement. Vatia had referred to water that is and isn't. Is one of these craters lakes near here? I asked eagerly. She nodded and motioned for us to follow her up a steep path. We turned a corner, and there before us was a rocky crater etched deep into the ground. This is where the Great Water flows, when there is any. 7 young explorers. Wiley smiled with satisfaction and immediately checked the map. The map says, at the end of the day, follow the sun, he said. So we should head west, since that's where the sun sets. I scratched my snout. Yes, but what are the 7 young explorers? We got back in Vatia's SUV and headed towards the western shore of the island. As we mused over the riddle, we were as quiet as mice. Night had already fallen, and Vatia stared at the dark sky. A silvery moon shone brightly. In the olden days, it was precious to see on nights that our ancestors performed sacred ceremonies near the Moi by the sea, she told us. Those ceremonies recalled the ancient traditions of Polynesia, which is where my courageous forefathers came from when they explored this new land. It all sounded very, very familiar. But where had I heard it before? Matia's words kept turning over and over in my head. Then suddenly it was like a light bulb went off. I had read those words before in my travel guide. I leafed through it until I found what I was looking for. Listen to this, I told the others, reading from the book. Most of the Moi on Easter Island look inward with their backs to the sea. But there is one group of 7 Moi that look toward the sea. I turned toward Vatia eagerly. Do you know where these 7 Moi are? Listen to this. Of course, she replied immediately. They are at Huvi Akivi. I can take you there right now if you wish. They represent the 7 young explorers who left Polynesia to look for new land and finally reached Easter Island. Susie, Trap, Wally, and I exchanged a look. We had solved the next clue. Vatia turned the SUV onto a long dirt road full of potholes. Then we came to a stop in a clearing. We quickly climbed out, eager with excitement. The 4 of us ran toward the summit of the small hill. At the top of the hill was a platform with 7 Moi standing in a row. The full moon bathed them with a silvery light, surrounding them with a halo of mystery. These must be the 7 young explorers, whispered to Susie. The sigh of the wind. Vitia noticed me and Susie whispering, and she studied us closely with her bright eyes. "Excuse me, I don't mean to be rude, but I don't think you've told me the truth about why you are here," she began. "I have a feeling you're not simply tourists. Look at my friend." I was more than happy to tell Vitia the truth, but I wasn't sure what they were thinking. Susie smiled. "It's okay with me if we tell her," she said. "I trust Vitia." Wobbly nodded. "Me too." "Humph," Trap squeaked. "Well, I don't want to tell her. I don't want to share the treasure with anyone." Susie gave Trap a stern look. "Aren't you ashamed of being so greedy?" she asked. "We're searching for Tia, not the treasure." "You might be searching for Tia, but I'm looking for the treasure," Trap admitted with a shrug. He didn't seem ashamed at all. The two of them began squabbling. Willie had pulled them apart, 3-1, while Lee told Trap. "The majority wins." Geronimo explained everything to Vitia. "My sister, Tia, came here in search of a treasure, but she's gone missing," I told Vitia. "She never returned home to New City, so now we're looking for the same treasure in the hope of finding her." Vitia thought it over. "I'll help," she offered. Meanwhile, Trap was busy following the directions on the map. He had run in front of the 7 moi and began counting in a loud voice. "Okay," he squeaked. "The map says to take 7 gigantic steps to the right, 3 warrior steps to the left, and 1 baby step forward." He had just taken the baby step when his paw landed on something that looked like a pink gold rock. But it wasn't a rock, it was a hole. With a yelp, Trap fell into it. Down, down, down. We ran toward the hole, but it was too late. My cousin had disappeared. Wild Willie twirled his whiskers thoughtfully. "The riddle to say, the sigh of the wind will take you far away," he said. "We've got to do something," Susie squeaked. "Are you ready for an adventure?" Wild Willie shouted. "If you are, follow me," he held out his paw to Susie, who held out her paw to me. In turn, I held out my paw to Vitia. A moment later, Wild Willie jumped into the hole, taking the rest of us with him. Moldy mozzarella, how do I get myself into these messes? The big black bubble. We found ourselves inside a damp, dark underground tunnel. I was terrified. I couldn't see a whisker. What's more, there was a continuous rustling noise as if a gigantic creature was lying there, breathing in the dark. I let out a shriek of terror as we plummeted deeper and deeper into the underground passageway. We seemed to be traveling to the center of the earth. A moment later, I was no longer sliding down the tunnel. I was floating in the air. The sigh of the wind was carrying us along. We floated along in the tunnel for a long time. Then instead of descending farther, we began to rise until the wind finally deposited us on firm ground. Trap had already emerged and was rubbing his bruised tail. Wild Willie bounded out, but his head remained floating in midair as if on top of an invisible fountain. Willie grabbed it quickly and put it back on his head. I glanced around me and made sure everyone was okay. Trap, Susie, Wild Willie, Vitia, and me, I squeaked, all here. I breathed a sigh of relief. Then I looked around, taking in my surroundings. We found ourselves inside an enormous cave with a rounded ceiling. It looked like a big dark bubble. There was a saltwater lagoon in the middle of the cave. I gently touched the wall. It was dark, porous, volcanic rock. "The big black bubble," whispered Susie. "We found it." "This is where the treasure is," Trap squeaked with excitement. Susie turned to him, an angry look on her snout. "No, this is where we might find Tia," she corrected him. "How can you only think of the treasure? You should be ashamed of yourself." Meanwhile, Wild Willie examined the map. "I checked our direction with the compass while we were traveling on the side of the wind," he whispered. "We traveled underground in the southwest direction. That means we're now right under the Geronimo crater," Vitia added. "We're in the heart of a volcano, and this must be a secret underground lagoon. I've never seen it on any map, and I've been a guide on this island since I was a tiny mouselet. We've traveled underground from Ahuakivi to the Reno Kahusan crater." Pirates in the night. As they were talking, Susie snapped some photos of Wild Willie checking the map. The camera flashed lit rocks behind us. At the same time, Trap sneezed. The sound bounced off the surrounding walls, echoing loudly. Achoo, choo, 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 choo. A second later, we heard a squeak. We weren't alone in the cave, and the flash of the camera and the echo of the sneeze had revealed a presence to whoever else was there. Wild Willie motioned to us to keep quiet. Then he scrambled behind some rocks and squatted down. We immediately followed his example. A moment later, we heard an unfriendly voice. Search there at the end of the cave, the voice commanded. And if you find anyone, bring them to me. Maybe somebody came looking for that nosy little mouse and the professor, another voice replied. I shivered. Was that noisy mouse my sister Dia? But who was the professor? Let's get back to the ship, the first voice yelled. We have to finish loading the treasure. We'll leave tonight. Yes, Captain, the other rodent replied. But what are we going to do with our prisoners? They know everything. We can't leave them here. My whiskers trembled with fear. I'll figure it out later, trembled the captain. Now let's go. Get the prisoners and bring them to the ship. They may still be useful. Someone was coming toward us, but Wild Willie signaled to us to follow him quietly. After, afraid of being seen, we slithered across the cave floor on our elbows until we reached the shore of the lagoon, where we saw a giant pirate ship. The ship had a sail shape and a huge sail to better cruise the waves. It was completely black, including the sails, and I could see its name on the side. Phantom of the Night. Susie pointed to something hanging from the tip of a rock high above us. It was a giant cage. Inside was my sister Dia and Professor Von Dustifer, a famous archaeologist who specializes in ancient treasures. The short-round pirate moved towards the cage. I was about to run over to save my sister and the professor when Wild Willie grabbed me by the tail. Wait, he whispered. Just be quiet. Let's see what happens. The pirate lowered the cage using a pulley. Then he opened it, nudged my sister out and the professor out of the cage, and tied their paws behind their backs. He left them behind a giant pile of crates. Don't move. Got it. He got it, he hissed. The captain hasn't decided what to do with you yet. The other pirates loaded the crates onto the ship one at a time, arranging them neatly in the cargo compartment. As the pirates worked, the captain baked insults at his crew. Hurry up or I'll feed you to the sharks for dinner, he squeaked menacingly. Soon all the pirates had disappeared inside the ship, leaving Thea and the professor alone. I signaled to the others, and we crept quickly but quietly to their side. Shh! Thea, it's me, Geronimo, I whispered. We came to save you. The treasure of Rapa Nui. Thea's eyes lit up when she saw me. Luckily, she and the professor remained silent. I picked up a sharp silver of rock and used it to saw through the ropes that bound their paws. Follow me, I whispered to them, but don't make a sound. The pirates were busy preparing for their departure, so they didn't see us sneak away from the ship. We slipped behind some rocks out of the pirates' view. Thank you, Geronimo, Dia said, hugging me affectionately. I knew you'd come to save me. Professor Von Dustifer also thanked me warmly, introduced Susie, Trap, Wild Willie, and Vitia. I would never have been able to find you without their help, I told Dia and the professor. What are these pirates up to? What? Willie asked, pointing to the ship. Well, I came to the island and followed the instructions on the map, just like you, Dia explained. First, I found the largest ahui with the 50 moi, then the great water, then the 7 young explorers, and finally the big black bubble. The rest of us leaned in, eager to hear what happened next. Here under the big black bubble, they found the real treasure of Rapa Nui. But unfortunately, I also found these pirates and I was captured. That's when I met the professor. He was the pirates' hostage. The professor sighed. It's true, he explained. He forced me to unearth many ancient treasures for them. Bingo! Trask squeaked with excitement. Tell us about the treasure of Rapa Nui. Is it a chest of gold coins or a heap of precious stones and pearls? Susie elbowed him sharply, but Dia knew our cousin Trap too well. She just smiled at him. Cousin, the treasure I found in this cave is very precious, but you won't be taking it home to Numas Island with you, she said simply. This treasure is for the inhabitants of Easter Island. But what is it? Crab squeaked. Thea pointed to 7 canoes woven from reeds. They have been hidden in a corner of the cave. What are those? Crab asked. This is the treasure of Rapa Nui, Thea said, gesturing to the 7 small boats. These are the 7 ancient canoes that the 7 courageous young explorers used to travel to Easter Island from Polynesia, she explained. Ooh, that's it? Crab moaned, his whiskers drooping with disappointment. Yes, Thea said with a smile. I was searching for the 7 ancient canoes, but the pirates were looking for another treasure, one they found by forcing the professor to help them. Now they're loading it onto their ship. Come on, I'll follow you. Followed Thea to a huge block covered with the cloth on the shore of the lagoon. The treasure was found at the bottom of the sea, Thea whispered. They lifted a corner of the cloth to reveal a bright shining surface. It was a moi made of solid gold. Now, this is what I call a treasure, Trap squeaked, licking his whiskers greedily. Let's see now. I only need a teeny tiny piece of the statue and I'll be rich. Why don't I just chip off a little silver? Susie pinched his ear. Don't you dare touch it, she warned, while we looked at him sternly. The more sacred here in Rapa Nui, he said seriously. Those pirates does not belong to them. Okay, Crab sulked. I was only kidding. The 7 canoes. We barely had time to cover up the treasure again before we heard the captain bark, Load the moi to the pirates. A giant crane descended from the ship's deck, grabbing the gold moi and lifting it up onto the ship. Tia desperately turned to Wild Willie. What can we do? She asked. We have to take action, he replied. Let's get out of here, fast, and look for help. Vitia looked toward the tunnel we had entered from. We can't leave that way, she said. The wind only blows in this direction. Wild Willie smiled. We'll leave by sea in the 7 canoes. Luckily, the cool temperature in the tunnel had preserved the canoes over time. They were in perfect condition and very fast. We began to paddle, careful not to make a sound. As we got closer and closer to the ship, I was so scared the pirates might see us. My whiskers trembled with fright. Luckily, the pirates were too busy moving the moi. They didn't notice us slip by silently in the dark water. We paddled around the ship and headed to the mouth of the cave. When we finally emerged onto the open sea, we found ourselves under a staring night sky that was lit up by the silvery light of the moon. I saw a small beach nearby. While Willie was first to set his paw on land. Let's quickly gather some dry wood, he said. We'll light a big fire and then I'll make some signals that will attract the attention of mice all the way in the village. While we threw more wood on the fire, Wild Willie used a blanket to create smoke signals. He used Morse code to send a distress signal, SOS. Morse code. Morse code is a communication system invented by Samuel Morse, an American painter and inventor. The code translates numbers and letters of the alphabet into a series of signals of different duration, either short dots or long dashes. The help signal SOS in Morse code is very simple. 3 short dots, 3 long dashes, and 3 short dots. Suddenly, we saw the bow of the Phantom of the Night emerge from the secret cave. The pirate ship was weighed down heavily with the gold moi. Unfortunately for us, they spotted our fire right away. The pirates pointed their cannons in our direction, and we could hear the captain issue his command. Shoot those spies, the captain growled. Ready, aim, fire! Help, I squeaked. They flattened us into mouse pancakes. I closed my eyes and waited for the cannonball to squash us, but nothing happened. I slowly opened one eye and then the other and saw why. The pirate ship was sinking from the weight of the gold moi. Wild Willie chuckled. I knew that the pirates would be sorry they stole that, he said. A moment later, a helicopter appeared in the night sky. Dozens of boats sailed over the horizon and headed toward our beach, and cars and trucks sped toward us over land. Everyone had seen our SOS and had come to our aid. And as for the pirates who had been shipwrecked in the middle of the bay, well, they wouldn't be getting away. Goodbye! We gave to the 7 canoes to the inhabitants of Easter Island. They were so happy to be reunited with such a precious historical treasure, one that had led to the discovery of Rapa Nui. To thank us, they organized an amazing tree for us on the beach. They sang and danced for us and put flower garlands around our necks. What will you do about the golden moi? Trap asked Vatia during the party. Are you going to fish it out of the water? Vatia shook her head. It's resting in the sea again, she replied, and that's where it's going to stay. Soon it was time for us to say goodbye. We climbed into Vatia's sloop and headed to the airport, the sounds of the Polynesian music and the blue sea fading behind us. Thank you for returning your treasure to the Rapa Nui people, Vatia told us. No, thank you, I replied. We couldn't have done it without your help. We waved goodbye as we boarded with Wild Willie's plane. Wild Willie settled into his pilot's seat. Captain here, he said to himself with a smile. We're leaving Easter Island. In a few hours, we'll be flying over the coast of Chile. Our trip will continue all the way home to Mouse Island. Suddenly, I realized that our incredible adventure had come to an end. We were going home. I thought all of my friends were waiting for me and for Tia back in New York City. I was especially looking forward to seeing my adorable nephew Benjamin. As I thought of my loved ones on Mouse Island, I looked out of the window of the plane. The triangular outline of Easter Island, which was wrapped in a mass of clouds, receded in the distance. Goodbye, Rapa Nui, I whispered softly under my whiskers. Special edition of the Rodents Gazette. As soon as we landed at New Mouse City's airport, I hurried to the office of the Rodents Gazette. Hello, I greeted the staff. I'm back from Easter Island, and I need everyone's help to put out an extra special edition of the paper. The entire staff pitched in, and in just a few hours, we had put together an amazing special edition of the Rodents Gazette. It included notes from Thea's diary and Susie's incredible photographs. That evening, the paper went on sale. It was a fabulous success. The Rodents Gazette, the most famous newspaper on Mouse Island, the treasure of Easter Island, found. New York City Special Correspondent Thea Stilton of the Rodents Gazette and Professor Von Dustifer, the noted archaeologist and expert in ancient treasures, have returned home to Mouse Island after being abducted by pirates. The famous journalist had gone to Easter Island in search of a lost treasure. There, she was captured by a band of restless pirates who had been holding Professor Von Dustifer captive. Continued. Through these Suttermouth photographs, we have Trap stuffing his snout to his shrimp, the joy of dance, Geronimo's encounter of a mysterious Mo, don't touch the Moi Trap. Thea and the professor, the pirates' prisoners, Geronimo were about to toss his cheese. The 7 canoes, the real treasure of Rapa Nui. Everyone had worked so hard on the newspaper, and I was hoping my grandfather, William Surepaws, would be pleased, but all he did was pinch my ear. You have to admit that this time you did a pretty good job, Dran said to Bart, but don't get comfortable. I've got my eye on you all the time. Got it? I just rolled my eyes at him. Night fell, and I headed home at last. As I walked down the streets of New Mel City, I met rodents around every corner. They greeted me with hugs and smiles and asked me lots of questions about my adventure. It's nice to have you back here in New Mel City. We missed you. I was so happy to be surrounded by so many friends and neighbors who loved me. Finally home, or maybe not. I finally arrived home, feeling exhausted. With a sigh of relief, I put on my pajama, made myself a nice cup of hot tea, and slept beneath the covers of my comfy bed. It felt so good to be back. Then the telephone rang. Hello? I answered. Stilton here. Geronimo Stilton. He heard Susie's familiar squeak. "Hi, Geronimo," she chirped brightly. "I really like traveling with you." Then I heard Tia's voice in the background. "Tell him he's coming with us on our next trip," she squeaked. "That's right," Susie said. "We have another mystery to solve, and you're going to Machu Picchu in Peru. Are you ready for an adventure?" "Don't worry, cuz I'm coming too," shouted Trap. I guess he was also there. "Aren't you thrilled? Now pack your little things and we'll come by to pick you up soon." "That's right," she said while Willie chimed in. "Get ready for an adventure." No, I stammered. "That is, thanks a million, but I'm not ready. I mean, I'd love to come, but I have too much work to catch on. So, no thanks. Have a nice trip. Goodbye." I heard a chorus of confused protest at the other end of the phone. But then Wobbly's deep voice cut them off. "If you say you're coming, he squeaked. "Period." "Got it, cuz," Trap shouted. "Period. That means no excuses." "You'll see, Geronimo," Dia added. "We're actually very ready for the next adventure," I replied. "I'm telling you, I'm not ready at all." But unfortunately, they had already hung up the phone. I stayed in bed and thought about it for a while, as my whiskers quivered with uncertainty. But then my eyes fell on a photo of the 5 of us on Easter Island. I looked happy in it, and I hate to admit it, but I almost looked like an adventurous mouse. I sighed and looked out the window to the landscape of New Mill City. It was a familiar view, and one that I knew well. There was Singing Stone Square, and the Fashion Center, and the harbor with its bobbing sailboats. Yes, it was great being home, but it had also been great going on an amazing adventures far, far away. When you're traveling, everything is a challenge and courage is greatly rewarded. I stared far off into the horizon. Suddenly, I felt brave and confident. "I am ready for a new adventure," I exclaimed. "A whisker-licking good one. And I promise to tell you all about it in my next book, Rodent's Honor." Okay, that was the book I read, and if you want more Geronimo Stilton books, please consider subscribing. This will help me make much better videos. And I hope I can see you in the next one. See you soon.